then let's continue with this next little section. So this is not introduction to VS Code. It's it would be very extensive to explain visual code, and often it's sometimes it's self-explanatory or not. So this is more on the focus of using it on the cluster. Therefore, the remote editing feature. Now you know VS Code as a versatile GUI code editor with some plugins, so that add support for different languages and so on, with a lot of features. Now, if you want to use it also on the cluster, then one thing you don't want again to copy back and forth files. What you can also do is to use the remote editing feature. So this is a feature that is supported in the original Visual Studio Code version from Microsoft, so the official basically one. And it basically allows to start a second instance of VS Code that runs on the remote side. And locally, you will have a normal VS Code window, and but all the files that you edit are on the remote side, and all the processes that you start and the terminal that you have are on the remote side. So for this, you need this remote SSH extension that you will find in the plugin repository of VS Code, and you need to configure your SSH access to use public-private key authentication, because there will be back and forth to by VS Code to set it up, and it will always ask you for your password, and this is very inconvenient. So it works best if you set up your SSH configuration accordingly. So you need to configure your SSH to use key authentication and use the SSH agent to not for not all of these password requests. Now, how to configure SSH? So we have the details in our user documentation. So basically, what you set up is you need to be able to directly connect to one of the login or compute nodes using the proxy jump feature to jump over the this FE jump host. So you basically, in this case, decide on one login node. Please don't use the first one. If everyone uses the first one, then your load will not be distributed, because we have multiple login nodes, as you know. So you basically set up this configuration so you can directly use SSH and then, for example, n2 login2 to connect to this specific login node. And it will automatically jump over this host because of this configuration line proxy jump. And now, if as we will see, if you then have a public key authentication, here is the identity file line with the path to the key, and then you can add SSH -add, use this command to add it to your agent. So let's take a look at this. Give me one little second. No, this is a terminal on my local computer. As you see, me, Alex, at my notebook. And we can take a look at the configuration. And here, as we see, there are these sections here. So if I would connect to N2 login 2, it will use my SSH key here, proxy jump over the jump host. And I can even do this to jump to some compute nodes if I'm running a job there, else it won't be possible. But you will find this configuration in our user wiki and through the link. And what you have to do is you need to use your agent. So in this case, the public key is not entered, but I can enter my the public key, the private key that I want to use for authentication. And this will be added then to the agent, and you would need to add your enter your passphrase that you use to encrypt your key. And now, if I'm using SSH and to login 2, you see it works directly because my private key is in the agent, and SSH asks the agent, do you have the private key already decrypted? Agent says yes. I can show this here. It says I'm remembering it. So the SSH can directly use it without you entering the passphrase. So it's quite convenient. And then you can enter the login node if your network connection is allowing it. Funny. Okay. A little hiccup. No, this thing with the agent, this works well under macOS and Linux. For Windows, you would need to set it up. So this is a little bit more involved. So here's a link to a Windows description, how to configure it on Windows. And then you need to install the extension in VS Code. And what I want to show you is, because another complete VS Code instance will be started on the remote side, it has to exist there, so it has to be installed somewhere. And this location where it will be installed is in your home folder. So I can look at the home folder right now, and it's empty. And now I will connect for the first time with VS Code to the remote side. So here I have VS Code, and you can use, as explained in the slides, this open command palette thing with Command Shift P or Control Shift P, and then use the remote SSH connect to host command, or there is also this remote explorer here where you can select something. So this is something that is defined in your SSH configuration, and VS Code will pick it up, will read it inside your local configuration, and will show it here. So this is my local VS Code, and I'm using this remote SSH feature, and then it will ask where do you want to connect to? So in this case, I'm using the login node, and now it opens a new window, and this new window will then be the remote session. So this is basically what is happening on the remote side, on the server, and you see there's some messages because it has to be set up first, has to be installed. So this takes a little while because then it will, in the background, it connected using SSH, and now we see that, for example, I can open this folder here, and these are the folders on the remote side, and we also see here in the terminal. Can make it a little bit larger. Here in the terminal, we see that this is a terminal opened on the remote side. So now everything is. So this window is basically a VS Code instance running on the remote side, and you're basically remote controlling the VS Code on the server or on the cluster. And we also see here we are connected. And what you will also see is, because this is a different instance than your local VS Code, if you need some extensions, you need to reinstall them basically to this remote instance of VS Code. But else you can then work as usual. And we can again look at the content of my home folder, and we see here I started VS Code, and it connected for the first time and then created this folder, VS Code server, and there it will store the files necessary for VS Code. So one thing, if I check how large it is, so the first time is like 240 megabytes of size, and this, if you install some extensions, they will also go there, or with time, if there's a patch or a new version of VS Code, then it will be updated, and then it can grow a little bit larger with time. So if for some reason, maybe if it's too large in your home folder and takes too much space, you may want to look at this folder. And if you are not very attached to the configuration, the extensions, and so on, you could also just completely delete it, and then the next time you connect with VS Code to the remote site, it will reinstall VS Code in your home folder again. Exactly. Also, it should show this in the remote window, the which host it is connected to. Maybe I have this. Okay, I've deactivated the status bar, but if I activate it again, we see here that this is a remote session and I'm on N2 login 2. Now, if you have a job running, you can also use, instead of N2 login 2, you can use SQ to figure out where your job is running, and then you can use the name of the compute node to connect to the compute node, and you could then run VS Code on the compute node for some reason if you want to debug something.